A day after the announcement of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's trip to China this week, India's External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj continues her engagements in Beijing. She met Chinese President Xi Jinping along with foreign ministers of other countries at the Great Hall of the People. Ms. Swaraj also called on Chinese Vice President Wang Quishan. Quishan is arguably the second most powerful leader in China after Xi Jinping. And I'm joined by our journalist Gaurav Sharma from Beijing. Gaurav, tell me how important this meeting is, and is Sushma Swaraj laying the foundation for the meeting which Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to have with Xi Jinping?
This is indeed a very important meeting between Sushma Swaraj and Wang Quishan, who is the Vice President of China and considered to be the right-hand man of Xi Jinping, and is also said to be the de facto number 2 after Xi Jinping in China. So this is a very, very important meeting, and it comes a day after the big announcement by both countries that President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will meet in the Chinese central city of Wuhan. So it's a very important development.
Gaurav, you stay with me, but to move on in the story, the decks are being cleared for what is a crucial summit between Narendra Modi and China's President Xi Jinping. Although touted as an informal meeting, government sources say both sides are looking at the progress on 3 issues: the border, bilateral trade, and investment, and multilateral cooperation. After the Doklam standoff last August, sources say that both leaders want to put a lid on the rising tension along the line of actual control. This would include strictly observing all LSE mechanisms worked out in the past. This applies especially to the banner drill, where in the event of a face-off, the other side is warned by large printed banners that they have intruded and must go back. No border breakthrough, no other breakthrough, none on China-occupied Assassination, because any settlement with India here would annoy Pakistan. Nothing on Arunachal Pradesh, which China claims, but India is in a possession. The middle sector holds promise because both sides have exchanged maps, but neither is willing to accept others' claim. India is hopeful of some breakthrough on bilateral trade and investment. China has made some noises about addressing India's 51 billion trade deficit. Modi is expected to press President Xi Jinping on that. The sources said Modi may remind Xi of his promise made in 2015 to invest 20 billion in India. Only 1.5 billion has come so far. The focus on multilateral diplomacy could see the two sides again coming together on global trade, opposing protectionism. Although India is not a major exporter, Make in India could take us down that path. Expect the two sides to build on past cooperation in areas like climate change. And let me go back to my colleague Gaurav. Gaurav, you were telling me that it will lay the foundation of the meeting between the Prime Minister and Xi Jinping. How?
See, it would be fair to say that Sushma Swaraj and Wang Quishan would have discussed the upcoming meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping, because you know, so the topics would have come for discussion. That what are the key highlights of the upcoming meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping. And I'm sure, so you talked about the border issue. I'm sure the border issue will certainly come up for discussion. It's a festering dispute between the two largest countries in Asia. I know that the border dispute is there since 1962, and there have been 20 rounds of border talks. But you know, as far as I was talking to a couple of Chinese experts and Indian Chinese experts, some of the diplomats also told me that the Indian side also want that the border issue should be resolved, not like managed, so that the border, because there are problems. You say it's a long-standing dispute, and both sides would like to resolve this issue as soon as possible. Because President Xi Jinping has got a mandate now; he is going to be there for the next 5 years, so it holds true for Prime Minister Narendra Modi also. They would like to discuss it, and because it's a thorny issue between both the countries. However, they would not like the border issue to hit other areas of cooperation between both the countries. Both the countries are emerging market, the fastest growing economies in the world, and there's a yawning trade deficit also. So they would like to resolve this. And you see, in the wake of the trade war between US and China, and so there seems to be some kind of a bonhomie between India and China over several issues. So you talked about a trade deficit. There's a belt and road issue, belt and road initiative, which is Xi Jinping's dream project, and India is the only country which has sternly opposed the project because of its key artery, which is China-Pakistan economic corridor, which goes through the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So India has conveyed its India has made it doesn't mince its words when it comes to Belt and Road. It says that it has as a whole, it doesn't have any problem with Belt and Road, but it has a main problem with CPEC. So you see, today also the Chinese Foreign Ministry has issued, we were there, and we asked about that what is going to come up between the Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping when they meet in Wuhan. So Lu Kang, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson, said that unprecedented changes which have taken place in the past 100 years will come up for discussion. He also hinted.
We are falling short of time. I think we are falling short of time. Thank you for your update from Beijing. Relevant points made by Gaurav Sharma, journalist from Beijing. On her visit to Beijing, India's Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj asked Indians and Chinese to learn each other's language to help them overcome communication barrier, resulting in a bid to further strengthen the relationship between the two nations. Swaraj made the remarks during a program called Contribution of Hindi in India-China Friendship, organized by the Indian Embassy.
चीन में भारतीय फिल्में बहुत लोकप्रिय हो रही हैं। अभी कल मैं विदेश मंत्री वांगी जी से मिल रही थी। उन्होंने 3 फिल्मों का नाम खुद लिया, दंगल, सीक्रेट सुपरस्टार और हिंदी मीडिया। कि तीनों फिल्में बहुत ज्यादा चर्चित हुई कि भारत और चीन की मैत्री में हिंदी का योगदान। मैत्री किसको कहते हैं? दोस्ती को। और जब दो दोस्त आपस में बैठते हैं तो क्या चाहते हैं? कि मन की बात करें, उनके जो दिल में आया है वो एक दूसरे के साथ साझा करें। उसके लिए भाषा की जरूरत होती है। मैं हिंदी बोलूं तो आप समझें, आप चीनी बोले तो मैं समझूं, तो हम इकट्ठे बैठ करके मैत्री भाव में बात कर सकते हैं।
South Korea says it has halted the propaganda broadcasting blares across the border at the North Korea. The South Korean Defense Ministry said that the idea is to create a peaceful atmosphere ahead of the first inter-Korean summit in a decade. Later this week, remember, South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un are scheduled to meet on April 27th. It is the first time in more than 2 years that the South Korean broadcasts have been stopped. The broadcast includes mixture of news, South Korean pop music and criticism of the North Korean regime. Broadcasts were halted in mid-2015 only to be restarted in January 2016 following North Korea's 4th nuclear test. Pyongyang has conducted 2 more nuclear tests since the North has its own propaganda broadcast at the border, but it was not immediately clear if it has stopped its broadcast. The world is anticipating complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula after North Korea said on Saturday it was suspending nuclear and missile tests and scrapping its nuclear test site and instead pursuing economic growth and peace. And I'm joined by my colleague, Ramesh Ramchandran, live from Seoul. Ramesh, let me take this opportunity to ask you, what are the potentials of this talk, of this meeting?
Thank you, Karthikeya. And I'm coming to you from a wind-swept and rain-swept evening here in Seoul, and a sense of anticipation here really ahead of the Friday summit, the 3rd inter-Korean summit between the leaders of South and North Korea. Now, there are many issues on the agenda, but crucial of them all will be the issue of nuclear weapons obtained or in possession of North Korea. And South Korean leaders are saying and telling the media here that they would want to hear from Kim Jong-un when they meet on Friday that North Korea will go for complete, verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. In other words, to roll back or dismantle its nuclear weapons program. But that is something which is still very much on a work in progress. Kim Jong-un only said that he would suspend the nuclear tests, he will not go further beyond that to commit himself to nuclear disarmament. So clearly, this is a thorny issue and it will likely engage attention of the South Korean leaders for many, many weeks and months to come. But that said, the issue here is also of peace and reuniting families separated by the 1953 war. So clearly, human rights, humanitarian issues are all equally important for South Korean people as they wait for that much crucial meeting on the 27th of this month.
Ramesh, do you feel that are intentions genuine, or is it a ruse on part of North Korea to buy more time, purchase more time till it develops its technology further when it comes to missile and nuclear technology?
Now that's an interesting question, Karthikeya. Is it tactical or is it strategic? Now some would say in South Korea that he is buying time and biding time actually, because North Korea has in the past reneged on several of its commitments, undertakings given to the international community, including on the NPT regime, for instance, which he pulled out, which North Korea came out of NPT in 2003. So clearly, people are waiting and watching to hear more from the 27th meeting between Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in here. But the expectation here is that this will lead or pave the way for further talks going forward, especially on the issue of reuniting families separated by the 53 war, and also on bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula, because this land has been at war for the last 60 odd years, and people are hoping for a peace treaty come Friday when Kim Jong-un will become the first leader in 60 years to step foot on South Korean soil when he crosses the DMZ and enters the peace village in Panmunjom for talks with Moon Jae-in here.
And last question before I let go of you. What's on the plate in terms of the conversation which both the premiers will have? And how much Americans are part of it?
Well, Karthikeya, actually this is a two-step process towards rapprochement on the Korean Peninsula. What is happening on the 27th is an inter-Korean summit involving leaders of North Korea and South Korea. But the next crucial step will be the crucial meeting between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. And that will set the stage for a reconciliation of the Korean Peninsula. And many people are here saying that we'll get an indication of that on Friday if the talks progress well between the North Korean and South Korean leaders. But that said, Trump has warned that he will walk out of the meeting if he does not get an assurance from Kim Jong-un on complete, verifiable denuclearization. So that's one issue which is still engaging attention of South Korean policymakers here as they prepare the ground for the June summit between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you. Now, moving on, the Malaysian police today released sketches of two suspects linked to the shooting and killing of well-known Palestinian in Kuala Lumpur over the weekend. Though Israel has denied it, Mossad, its secret service, is suspected to be behind the assassination. Malaysia says it's treating the murder as an act of terrorism. The Palestinian academic and engineer from Gaza was shot dead on Saturday morning outside a Kuala Lumpur mosque. 35-year-old Muhammad al-Batash has 3 children. He was shot dead by 2 people on a motorcycle. 10 shots were fired, 4 hit him in the head and body as he went for the dawn prayer. CCTV footage shows him targeted by 2 suspected assassins who waited for him for almost 20 minutes. The Israeli defense minister has denied his country's responsibility but added that he was no saint and he was involved in making rockets. His family and Hamas blames Israel's Mossad. The Israeli intelligence agency is believed to be behind targeting Palestinian militants and scientists abroad in the past, though it has never officially confirmed them.
وراء هذا الموضوع سوف تدفع الثمن قطعا. نحن لا يمكن أن نفرط بدماء أبنائنا ولا يمكن أن نفرط بدماء شبابنا وعلمائنا. وأنا أستطيع أن أقول بأن بالقياس إلى عمليات الاغتيال السابقة والقتل الذي استهدف علماء فلسطينيين وعلماء الأمة العربية والإسلامية أن الموساد ليس بعيد عن هذه الجريمة النقراء الآثمة، ونحن إن شاء الله سوف يكون بيننا وبينه فاتورة حساب مفتوحة.
I'm joined by my colleague Amitabh Revi from Newsroom. Amitabh, often facts get fictionalized and they're very well documented and etched in public narrative. It's like Munich, or it's like a fact which became public about the Dubai operation of the Israeli Secret Service.
In that case, they had actually confirmed it, the Israelis. Now, it's real alleged cloak and dagger stuff in Malaysia. Dagger to the extent that a gun has been used now. At least 14 shots were fired to kill this Palestinian. An update on the story is that Israel is now officially denying any involvement. The defense ministry has spoken to the defense minister has spoken to reporters, denying any involvement in this killing of the Palestinian, though he went on to hint at a possible internal divide being behind this murder. He added that Baksh is no saint and that he is involved in making rockets. Now, Malaysia also officially has admitted that this both academic and scientist has been involved in weapon making of some sort. So that's why these reports are suggesting that Israel or Mossad is behind this latest assassination. We know of the CIA as the farm. Mossad is literally the institution, and like you were pointing out, Dubai, a high-profile assassination which was admitted by the official government, by the Israeli government. There have been other suspected assassinations abroad, including in Damascus, in Syria, in Egypt, and one of the most controversial or high-flown assassinations, which again the Israelis admitted, was in Cyprus, where in Nicosia, where they had in fact posed as tourists, taken boats, gone and assassinated once the right-hand man of Yasser Arafat. There was a Boeing overhead that was jamming communications in that. So a lot of cloak and dagger involved in this. The Malaysian authorities are now saying that they're treating it as an act of terror, and autopsy has been performed, and this Palestinian will be sent back to his body will be sent back to his home in Gaza.
Amitabh, how much credence can be given to the official statement of the Israeli government when we know that from the Osirak episode to the one which again became public, where they bombed a nuclear reactor, or the alleged nuclear reactor in Syria, to the sort of hits they have carried out in Europe and other parts of the world, including in 50s and 60s, which were documented later when they hunted down the Nazis. It just falls into the picture, the larger picture of the way Mossad and other intelligence agencies of Israel have functioned over past 60 years.
That's exactly why this is gaining so many eyeballs in terms of headlines. You're mentioning a nuclear attack on a nuclear facility. Well, don't forget those 4 Iranian scientists, nuclear scientists, who were assassinated in Iran. And again, it was Mossad who's believed to be behind those assassinations there as well, of a very high-profile event that took place. So Mossad, though officially the defense minister is saying they are not involved, he's clearly also painted the other side of the coin, that's the Israeli side of the coin, saying that Baksh was no saint, that he was involved in the elongation of and accuracy of weapons. So there would be possibly no official confirmation of that from Israel, but that's what everyone is speculating on. And to add to that, the Malaysians going on to say that they are treating this investigation as an act of terror.
And lastly, before I let go of you, is it also because of the fact that there's a paradigm change which is emerging in West Asia, that Saudi Arabia and Israel, they are cooperating on different issues and different terrains because of the emergence of Iran and its say and its influence in the Gaza and in the Palestinian areas? Is it also because of the new equations with MSB coming to power in Riyadh and sort of a new relationship which is emerging between two bitter foes?
There's been immense speculation about what kind of cooperation is possible and is happening, whether it's behind the scenes or in front of the corridors of power between Israel and Saudi Arabia, because of the very paradigm shift that you are mentioning. And they were so-called foes at one point of time. I mean, if you look at the situation in Syria, overall, you see that both the US and in Russia, the ex-Soviet Union, I was going to say that because of the Cold War, they were foes in the Cold War, but they have both been targeting Daesh or the Islamic State. So in essence, on the same side. So there has been paradigm shifts all across the world.
Okay. Thank you, Amitabh. Thank you for this update. A news which made headlines in India. India's Vice President, Venkaiah Naidu, he's also chairman of Rajya Sabha, has rejected the opposition's notice for impeachment of India's top judge, Chief Justice of India, Deepak Misra. Vice President Naidu consulted India's Attorney General, two former Supreme Court judges and other senior officials before rejecting the motion. leaders of opposition parties led by Indian National Congress handed a notice of impeachment against Chief Justice of India, Deepak Misra. In the impeachment notice, there were 5 allegations against the Chief Justice, Deepak Misra, including abusing his administrative authority. This is the first time in India there has been a motion to impeach the top judge.
The President, as Chairman of the Rajya Sabha, has exercised his constitutional jurisdiction and has taken a particular view. Let me tell you, it has been clarified on more occasions than one that the impeachment motion was not moved after the lawyer decision. The impeachment motion was a work in progress for several weeks. I think a time has come when we should put a quietus to this. And but of course it is for those MPs who signed the motion to decide.
So the rejection of the impeachment motion by the Vice President is in terms of law. So this is an office of the Vice President. An Honourable Vice President has applied his mind to the facts of the matter, to the allegations and accusations, and applied the law, and in terms of that has rejected the petition.
We find the order constitutionally and legally flawed. He's gone into the merits of the allegation without an inquiry, without an investigation, which in law doesn't happen. I don't know why he didn't consult Supreme Court on this issue, because consulting retired people or law officers or editors and journalists or reading editorials is not the right material. The right material would have been to speak to the judges of the Supreme Court and maybe come to a considered conclusion after that.
And I'm joined by my colleague Jessica Taneja on this story. Jessica, tell me, the Congress is talking about taking this issue to the Supreme Court. Is it legally permissible, one? And secondly, what happens when it goes to the court? Which court does it go to? Does it go to the Chief Justice Court, the Court of the Chief Justice of India? Whose court does it go through?
Well, Karthikeya, exactly, that's the trick question that was posed to Kapil Sibal, the senior Congress leader, as well as the lawyer who will be representing and making a judicial review of this order passed by the rejection order that has come out from the chairman of the Upper House and also the Vice President of India, Venkaiah Naidu. When one questioned him whether this will go to the CJI, he said it will be ideal if the Chief Justice didn't hear it, he recused it. Of course, it goes to the other 4 judges. Understand that the other 4 judges, second senior more judges, are also in conflict of interest here, because if you've seen the 5 pointers on basis on which the opposition united and moved an impeachment motion against the CJI Deepak Misra was also the fact that the 4 judges were unhappy, and they had reflected a lot on how the internal rift within the judiciary is reflecting and is tainting democracy. So when asked about that, senior Congress leader Kapil Sibal also said that of course it will be ideal if he doesn't sit, but if you look at the process, it first, if not the CJI, then the next senior 4 judges were apparently the 4 judges who had come out and done that PC. And the possibility is, because they are filing a petition which as per the press conference that we heard from the senior Congress leaders, they will be taking it to the court, but then it will be heard by Justice Sikri, which is the 6th bench onwards. So I mean, that will be the higher up in the judiciary bench. So that is where it will go. But yes, we've been told and it's confirmed that they are moving apex court against this order.
Jessica, before I let go of you, is it going to be like when the whole issue of master of the roster came up, in the same bench where CJI was present, but the other judge who was sitting next to him threw the petition out and said that no, the master of the ceremony, master of the roster indeed remains the Chief Justice of the country?
Absolutely, Karthikeya. That goes back to the Supreme Court rule books, in fact, interestingly, because that is what establishes the rule in the Supreme Court, which gives the authority to the Chief Justice to form a constitution bench. Now, senior judges can refer a matter to a constitution bench, but they cannot form the constituents of the bench or which judge will be part of which bench. So, of course, that also created a lot of ripples and controversies. What we thought was actually, Supreme Court gossip, in fact, turned out to be true when the judges came up front and said that he's one among equals. He's the master of the roster, but he's one among equals. Those were strong, blatant words. And if you remember when the whole Prashant Bhushan mentioning for the CJI to recuse himself from the Prasad Trust education case, the order had gone to Chilameshwar, and then the whole fiasco happened in court, and when Court 8 delivered the fact, and it clearly gave it an order, and I quote, it says no one can judge the judges. So of course that has been brewing up. There's been a concoction of confusion and authoritarian sort of build up inside the apex court. But of course, if you ask the normal public, if you ask, as has been speaking to legal luminaries as well as people of outside courtrooms, they say that judiciary should have been protected in a much better way, because people eventually would knock the court's doors. And this whole, unprecedented press conference, the whole impeachment motion being moved against the CJI has just sort of increased more and more scrutiny towards the apex court and has weakened the judiciary in front of the people.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for this update. One has to see how this matter turns out in the Supreme Court tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Now, at a time, Indian government is planning to ask DTH operators to install chips in the new set-top boxes to monitor TV viewing. Habits, India's telecom sector regulator TRAI is all set to implement the proposal, but TRAI has also asked INB Ministry to send a separate formal reference on the issue. The Information and Broadcasting Ministry is planning to collect data about channels watched and the duration with the help of chips which will be installed on the TV set-top boxes. On the issue, WION spoke to the TRAI chairman Arish Sharma. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
We had asked the ministry to send us, in case they want to sort of go ahead with any proposal, they make a reference to us. So TRAI's role, as you know, is of three types. Number one, we issue recommendations to the government, either suo moto or on the request of the government. That's number one. Number two is essentially we regulate tariffs, quality of service and interconnection in the telecom space. So that's the second part. So that's how it is. So the suo moto recommendation we have not given. The government has thus far not asked for any recommendations on that space.
So on that thing, there's no communication so far, which is...
No, we have made a communication saying that, in case you want our advice, kindly refer that matter.
On this issue, I'm joined by my colleague Sumit Chaturvedi. Sumit, tell me, what has prompted the government to go forward with this decision? What's the reason behind it?
Well, that's a different, Kartika. It's still not clear what is the reason behind this, though there could be a number of reasons that that the government wants to analyze what is going on in news industry, or they want to analyze what is taking with the people. But this move, clearly, when it was actually the news came out last week, it raised some kind of questions over the intentions of the government. But so far, government has not confirmed it. But TRI, we spoke to the chairman, and he said that he is now moving ahead with the proposal on, and suo moto taking cognizance. He has actually asked government whether they would like TRI to fulfill this responsibility, and if yes, they should send a formal reference for this. Having said that, there are many questions that are unanswered in this whole exercise. First, this will be applicable for the new set-top boxes. So what happens to the old set-top boxes? There are mostly the people who are watching television channels, they have already subscribed to set-top boxes. So what happens to the old set-top boxes? Second, this technology is prevalent in many countries across the world, but users are paid because the data is collected. Third, again, it brings us back to the same debate. Who owns the data? So if I am watching the channel and if my viewership data is being obtained by certain set-top box company, why is it being sold and why is it being sold to third party? So there are a lot of issues that have to be sorted out before this can see the light of the day. This proposal can see the light of the day. Well, this actually happens in many countries across the world, but there it happens in a different format. First, the viewers are paid. Second, viewers are taken as a sample size, not as all the people across the board. So here in India, that's to be seen how this will be implemented. That's a big question.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you for this update. My colleague Sumit telling us about this new process which is in place. But ultimately, the bottom line is that it's all about data, because viewing habit will be about new data which the government will have in terms of what people watch, when and how much of time is spent on that. It ultimately means that government will also have an idea about the way advertising money is being spent on social media and mainstream media.